Yo, 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 what's up, guys? All right, man, a lot's going on. You guys are gonna have to go watch that video on Ethereum Classic. It's called Crypto Runs AMC Follows. I posted, I believe, already 3 videos on this. So if you're new to that and you're not familiar with the correlation, I'm gonna go over it in this video, but it's a little bit more brief on the other videos. Okay, so basically in the cycle, and one of the things we use or used before to track AMC's price action because it had a good correlation of tracking was Ethereum Classic's chart. All right, so that's what I'm gonna pull up first, and then I'm gonna go over the correlation. Right now, Ethereum Classic is pumping. Okay, it's up basically 40% the last few days after being in this massive accumulation pattern. So it started to pump, right? It's pumping, and now the correlation thing here I think might make sense once I explain it a little bit. But the last video I talked about, it focused on a bunch of these stocks that were pumping in January of 2021, like prior to the whole AMC thing. So that's what that video covers, and it goes over a list of stocks, I believe like 5, that were already getting that pre-pump from December to January. And now we're starting to see Ethereum Classic pump after not pumping for a while, right? So AMC, same thing. It hasn't been pumping. It's just been in this macro distribution pattern for a long time. So I want to bring this correlation back because I think it has some validity to it. But first, well, for those that don't know how this correlation works, I'm going to run through it very quickly. And here's a very simple chart of how I think this works. So you guys know with cycle analysis, we use reference patterns. And in this case, we're using a cycle, like an algorithm cycle that played out first on Ethereum Classic and then transferred over to AMC. Why? Because these not only the structure of the chart here, but the percentage to which it ran and then dumped all this liquidity onto AMC, it matches. So we use this to predict the last 2 major pumps on AMC, which were in March of 2022 and then August of 2022. So these two were accurately predicted using this cycle down here, the Ethereum Classic cycle. So let's talk about this correlation here and how it's structured here, how the algorithm structures it, because it's not something that or at least when we used it back here, it's not something that was consistently tracking, based on a set list of dates. Like this is going to make sense here, but from what I've gathered here, if we start off in January and we look at the structure down here of this pattern, before it basically squeezed, right? It had 2 different, what we call little volatility zones, these micro volatility zones. So the way that this transferred over to AMC, or at least in the structure of AMC's pattern, it took 27 days on average from the point at which Ethereum Classic rallied and then dumped for AMC to see the exact same pattern displayed on its chart, right? So this section down here happens on AMC's chart 27 days later. Okay, and if we take a look at the next section down here, it happens 27 days later as well. Okay, one way to kind of see this without the difference in days and how liquidity is transferred over, okay, is just take the chart here and overlay it on top of AMC. Now, this chart is it's fitted exactly to the way that that I took it. So from October 30th, 2020 through today, right, which is the 11th. Okay, so you overlay this on top, and things start to match up here in the beginning. Like you can see all the different sections matching up. Like this mid phase right here, what we call the projector pattern lines up, and even the peak on AMC. So all these, at least this phase in the cycle, took about 27 days. But where it starts to get tricky is where the algorithm starts to slow down what is this, this macro cycle, this version of this pattern. It starts to slow down because it doesn't track 27 days anymore after the dip we took. After the dip we took in June, it started tracking only 20 days behind. So now you take this section, okay, the section where it starts to dump, and you can even see here, like the charts start to look a little bit differently, but you start to see similarities between each of the sections. So right here, you can see it takes 20 days for it to reach its high from the reference chart we're using down here. 20 days, 20 days, and then it starts to narrow even more. We're at 10 days. And I found that coming to the last two pumps, the last two major volatility zones, it only took about 6 days to reach that high. So that was a good correlation back then. I kind of understood that this pattern down here was just changing in time and was shrinking actually as the algorithm here, as time passed in the algorithm. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. I mean, I use this method here on the micro charts, on the macro charts, but this one is pretty relevant coming to this next POI here. And the reason I say that is because, in the cycle, the way we track the 62-day cycle, AMC has what is this volatility zone, this POI coming up early February. And it's weird to me that throughout this break time, because the algorithm basically shut down after August, okay, and it kind of makes sense with the whole ape thing. So think of this being a break period where nothing really is happening in the markets. They're trading sideways. They're accumulating. They're in a period of a distribution, whatever it is. Every market sector kind of trades within its different phases. So for this, it's pretty interesting because they weren't really tracking. It was just flat. And then up to the most recent split AMC had, same thing. We're just trading. We're pretty just stagnant, following a descending channel. Coming up to the POI here in February, if we take a look at the same correlation, say the cycle restarts back here after this break. Well, it's not going to shift back slowly, and we're going to see like a tracking where it kind of morphs back and starts at 6 and 10 and then 20. No, it starts from scratch at 27, 25 it could be. But if we take that same logic and apply it to this next POI, it lines up with the start of the POI, which is February 8th, 27 days from its most recent pump. Okay, Ethereum Classic started the pump yesterday. It's up 10% today. 27 days from today puts us at February 8th. Okay, and if we take a look at the AMC cycle, okay, we're currently right in the middle. We are entering the red portion of the cycle, which doesn't mean that there's going to be downside, but the volatility zone is from the beginning of the cycle up until the peak here. It's 13 days long, and it starts the 8th right here. Okay, so that's the little projector, and then here's the volatility zone. It's 13 days long. So obviously, guys, all this is speculation. I mean, it always has been, but what I talk about here in this perspective in the markets is looking at the correlation inside this volatility zone, this 13-day window. And, I say this every time, but, you have your beliefs in the market. I have a very specific belief in the way the markets are structured and work. And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to go along with everybody's beliefs and perspectives in the way the market functions. But that's one of the things I've been using here with the entire market, not just AMC. AMC is just the stock that kind of opened this idea up. And the fact that just we're starting to see a bunch of correlation really with what happened in 2021 has me thinking that this next POI is going to be a positive one. But as always, they're just volatility zones. And if the correlation does not hold and AMC starts to dump, then we can't really put the two together anymore. This is just my outlook right now based on what's happening in the crypto markets. If we start to see a correlation again, I think this is going to be very good news for AMC in the long term. Because, back here, one could have used this, literally could have used this pattern to track AMC's price action because it happened before AMC. And if you take a look at the pattern and the levels, everything hits, right? All these small sections here in the cycle are hitting basically to a T on the levels and everything. And yes, the pattern starts to like stray away in time, but that's just the way the cycle functions. But just imagine, right? You spot it earlier on to understand how these guys are just rinsing and repeating these macro patterns, right? To use and dump for other over-leveraged either cryptocurrencies or stocks. In this case, there was a strong correlation with Ethereum Classic and AMC, and it's possible that if it comes back in sync and starts tracking again, that we're going to see a very similar correlation. Guys, we're basically in the same time. That video I posted on Meme Coin also talks about that pattern right here in November of 2020 and how it's looking very similar to AMC. And it's you got to think about the name. You got to think about that it's a cryptocurrency the same time, just 3 years later. I mean, all that stuff, there has to be, a purpose for that, for these larger institutions on why they're using these, these coins and stocks, meme stocks, right, for leverage. So that's this video, man. That's what I got for you guys. I'm hoping that the tracking comes back and, we're able to track this whole thing, even though it's a theory, because it is, all right? Nothing here is set in stone. We can't prove anything, but the correlation is good to me. I like the correlation. I like the odds, so I go with that. All right, guys, that's it. If you like the video, click that thumbs up, subscribe. You guys already know how this works. We go live. We go live when we rally, right? We rally with the family. So subscribe and hit that notification bell for all that good stuff. And remember that this approach here is not just something that I use for AMC. I use it for the entire market. So if you want to have or learn more about this perspective here, click the link below. It's the Discord. There's a nice little community there. We chat it up every day. We go live every day. And a bunch of different plays and perspectives, options, crypto, all that good stuff. So check it out, guys. All right. See you next time. Bye-bye.